A car drives down the freeway with a sticker on the back windshield with three stick figures of a woman and two children. A man walks into a restaurant with an NRA hat on. You're at Starbucks, and the man sitting behind you is loudly talking on the phone about a vehicle he just sold to a private party for $5,000 cash just 30 minutes earlier. What do these three scenarios have in common? You can show your support by clicking the like button below, subscribing to our channel, visiting our website, or providing feedback in the comments. Enjoy the video. In the three scenarios mentioned at the beginning of the video, each individual was providing critical information that could be used against them. A criminal could easily arrive at the conclusion that the driver of this car is a single mom and may be easy to overpower if he wanted to break into her home. For home burglars, if they know you own firearms, your house suddenly becomes a great target, as these are items that they can steal and sell. Same for the cash scenario. That individual has just tipped off those within earshot of this conversation that he's probably carrying a large sum of cash on his person. If you've ever been in prepper circles for more than 15 minutes, you've probably heard the term OPSEC mentioned. What is OPSEC? Operation Security is a term originating in U.S. military jargon as a process that identifies critical information to determine if friendly actions can be observed by enemy intelligence, determines if information obtained by adversaries could be interpreted to be useful against them, and then executes selected measures that eliminate or reduce adversary exploitation of friendly critical information. Wow, that's a mouthful. So what does OPSEC mean for you and I? It boils down to keeping information to yourself that could be used against you later by those that may turn on you. In the context of this conversation, it could be defined as InfoSec or information security, but it's the same concept. So now that we've laid out the foundation for the concept of OPSEC, how does this tie into keeping our preps safe from the unprepared? As mentioned a moment ago, in order to keep our preps safe, the fewer others know what you've got, the better. And who are those others that we need to be concerned about? In a nutshell, they're anyone that has not prepared. I realize that's broad in scope, but we'll chat about this more momentarily. I think it's worth mentioning a real example of what we're about to discuss. You may say to yourself, if others know I have prepared for an emergency, this won't be a problem because people are instinctively kind and rational. Think again. If you Google Selko Bosnia, there's plenty of stories that you can read from the individual named Selko who lived in Bosnia during the early 90s during the collapse there. The term survivor hate comes up in these stories, and it's something I encourage you to read more after you watch this video. When things go sideways in a region, if others know you have items they need for survival, people will quickly turn on you and you can become a target. In this video, we'll discuss 3 steps to practically implement OPSEC both before and during a grid down scenario to ensure that you keep your prep secure and that you do not become a target if there's an event in your area. Step number 1, do not reveal information about your preps. This is by far the most important point. Ever heard the term loose lips sink ships? This is an American idiom meaning beware of unguarded talk that was used during World War II to warn soldiers that sharing important information may end up getting into the hands of the enemies. So then who are these individuals that we should not be sharing this information with? Let's look at a few different people. Your neighbors. Your neighbors that live immediately around you see your daily routines. They may see you when you return from the grocery store, bringing home all that food and supplies in bulk. Think it might make them think twice if they see you carrying several 50 pounds of rice into your house? What thoughts might be racing through their heads if they see you have large 55-gallon water drums being stored in your backyard? The question will probably come up, what are you storing up for? Why are you buying all this stuff in bulk? Ever thought about how you will answer those questions? From the way I see it, you have a few options. Option 1 is to tell the truth. You could explain to them that you're preparing for potential emergencies or problems that may arise. Option 2, on the other hand, is to lie to them. You could tell them that there's an event coming up at your church and you had to buy a lot of bulk food and leave it at that. In the first scenario, if you tell the truth, now they have information and you've just broken OPSEC. If a problem ever arises in your area, guess who's going to be coming and knocking at your door? That neighbor you just told about your supplies will be showing up. This leads to many other problems that are beyond the scope of this video, but let's suffice it to say, letting this information get out to your neighbors puts you and your preps at a risk. Family. Just as with a neighbor, the moment you provide information about your preps to a family member, who will they tell? They may tell their neighbor that they have a nephew who is a prepper, or they may tell others in their circle of friends. Or the conversation may come up with their favorite cashier at a store. You have no control of how that will play out or who learns that about you. You've now been compromised. Remember that game we played as a kid where we passed information around a group and compared what the final person had to say versus what the original story was? It's a lot like that. You may have innocently shared that you have food, water supplies, firearms, and medical kits in your home, and by the time that information gets out, there's no telling how many times the story may change and grow to the point where others see your home as a place to go if there's a problem. Social media. Got a new gun or a cool piece of prepping gear you just recently purchased and want to show it off online? What happens if you happen to tag a friend in that image? Now their circle of friends sees your post, and it just goes from there. Who are those people in their circle of friends? Do you know those people? In this day and age of information, it's not hard for people to track you down just from your name and get a lot of personal information, like your home address. Be careful about what you're sharing online. Once that information is out there, it's all but impossible to get it removed. Be careful what information you're sharing and what message you're sending to the world in regards to your preps. Number 2. Keep items you're stockpiling out of view. I was in Salt Lake City recently and I drove past a big house that was backed up against a highway. In their backyard, I could see they had large solar panels along with quite a few 55-gallon blue water drums. They looked like they were living off the grid, and it appeared they were preppers. If things were to go bad and the grid went down, think other individuals in that area would have taken note of this and will probably show up at their door? They looked like they were preparing for something, and it was obvious to see. Be conscious of what others see when they drive past your house. Don't make things obvious. Also, be conscious of what others see when they visit your home. If you have contractors come to your home, are your preps in full view, or do you put things away? Again, remember in our example earlier, information spreads quickly. So once someone sees something in your home that gets their attention, they're now going to probably spread that information to others, and you have no control of how that plays out. Think about the UPS driver who drops off that ammunition you purchase online. The box often have a description written on the side, and they're probably making a mental note of this. Also, think about when throwing that ammunition box in the trash can, as your neighbors will now see that box. Consider the time of day as well when you're loading these large bulk purchases into your house. Just made a run to Costco where you purchase a lot of beans and rice? If you're out in the driveway unloading that into your house, others will see this. You might want to reconsider unloading all that at night. When I go to the range, I make it a point to wait and check the street in front of my house before I walk out with my gun case. I purposefully scan around because this is information I don't want others gathering about me. Again, when it comes to OPSEC and keeping your prep safe, the less information others have about your activities and what you're doing in relation to prepping, the better. Number 3. How do you keep your prep safe after a major event? So there's been an event. A catastrophe has occurred and now there's no electricity and people are running out of food and water. Now what? If you've got backup power and people see you with lights on, people are going to quickly piece it together that you have resources. If you start cooking food outside on your barbecue grill and others can smell what you're cooking, guess who's coming to dinner? This is where you have to use common sense. You need to black out your windows and prepare food inside or at night. Then here's a bigger issue. What are you going to do when neighbors see you prepared and start coming to your house? What happens when you give out to others that come to you for help and then they go and tell others that you're providing handouts? In this scenario, others will find out pretty fast. I've read many survival stories of people that have survived through times of hardship, and the stories they tell are very common. People can quickly turn on those that have prepared. This is something you will eventually have to deal with. Remember what I said earlier in the video about survivor hate? If you research this enough, you'll see that it typically doesn't turn out so well for those that are prepared. When people get desperate, that sweet soccer mom with 2 kids will do whatever it takes to feed her kids. The key is to avoid letting this information out. When I was in Afghanistan, there was a parable I heard. Beware the fat man in the skinny land. People were hanging on by a thread and were living with very little. If you stood out as being well fed, people knew you had resources, or at least hiding them. And in a situation like this, the moment people realize you have something they want, you quickly become a target. So use your common sense and don't make it apparent that you have supplies. Learn to blend in as much as possible. I recently launched a video a few weeks ago about the gray man concept, which I'll post a link to at the end of the video. I encourage you to watch it to learn some basic concepts of how to avoid standing out. I tend to keep a low profile in regards to my preps with my neighbors and my friends. When I first started prepping, I was excited to share with others, but I quickly realized, for the reasons we've mentioned earlier, that this is a huge liability. How many of us have shared the fact that we have preps with others and have gotten this response? If things go bad, I'll come to your house. This is not a scenario you want to encounter, because when people become desperate, they'll do whatever it takes to survive. Practice OPSEC. Keep vital information to yourself, and in the event anything happens in your area, you will lessen the likelihood that you and your family become targets. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, be safe out there.